Good morning and welcome to the show. It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. Money-saving tips throughout the show. And we're going to start off with our friend, Vonda, the Coupon Queen. Vonda, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Don.
Oh, thanks for being had. Hey, now thank you for coming in. I know you moved your mom down.
Yes, I did.
Right? So,
yes.
So now she's in Panama City.
She's in Panama City for good.
For good with the rest of the family. That's
yes,
awesome.
That is awesome. I'm
yeah.
so happy.
Yeah, now, of course, I'm sure you did that very frugally as you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. You did it yourself, I'm sure.
Did it myself.
The old U-Haul thing.
The old U-Haul thing.
Yeah, holy mackerel. You are amazing.
I try.
You know, you walk the walk, my friend.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people talk about saving money. God knows I love to talk about saving money. I rarely do. And when I do, it's like a personal triumph for me. You know, but you kind of live that in every facet of your life. I know we started, you know, just before we started the show, we were talking about, what are we going to talk about today? And Vonda says, we're going to talk about back to school. And I'm like, already? I mean, it's only April.
Yes, but now is the perfect time for parents to get set up for the new school year. Binders.
That Vonda, always planning, always thinking ahead, always strategizing.
Everything that children need for school is at a reduced price right now.
You mean like school supplies?
School and clothing.
And clothing
the polo shirts, now is the best time to purchase them. Binders are on clearance. The nice binders that zip up, like I use for my couponing.
Yeah.
They're all on clearance right now. So parents can snag binders for like $6. And then we have the clothing. Polo shirts are all on sale for the month of April. As soon as the end of May hits, those prices are going to go up. And the month of August, it's going to be worse because the retailers know the consumers need those items for school. So now's the best time for parents to go out and purchase anything that's needed for the new school year.
Well, you know, that's pretty amazing. But when you think about it, it's just like buying a Christmas tree the day after Christmas.
Yes.
You know, everything's on sale, or they're trying to blow it out. And here we are. End of the school year is like coming up. And now's the time to buy all your supplies for next year.
Yes, and there are coupons out for ink pens, all different brands of ink pens. Now is the time. If the parents can swing it, do it now. You'll save money later.
Yeah, and then when September rolls around or August rolls around, when does the school year start down here?
August or
August something
September,
or other. It's kind of a moving target, I think.
It is.
But when that rolls around, you're ready. You're prepared.
Yep, you're already set.
Buy all your stuff, stick it in a box, throw it in a closet, and then just don't forget it's there like I would do. But,
even gym shoes. And the reason why, Don, is because...
Yeah, that's true. You're going to need sneakers for the school year.
That's true. Summer officially has not hit. But anything related to spring, and polo shirts always come out in spring, it has to be gone. All stores have to move it.
Yeah.
All of them. JCPenney's, the mass merchandisers, the dollar stores, that stuff has to be gone to make room for the summer items.
Yeah, all that seasonal merchandise moves out of the stores just before the next season? Is that the way it works? Is there like a time, like a month before? Or
it is, sometimes even more than a month.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, so you just got to keep your eyes open, really. And of course, subscribe to your tips.
Yeah, that's the best tip of all.
Yeah, that's right. The best tip of all is to like Vonda on Facebook, Vonda the Coupon Queen on Facebook, and we can get money-saving tips from there as well. And you have a website too, right, Vonda?
I do have a website, couponqueen.com.
Couponqueen.com, of course, and you get all that stuff. I have enrolled in a couple of things, you know, per your advice.
Yes.
And I get emails from like CVS and places like that with coupons.
Yes.
Little me, printing them up. You know, I remember, you know, back in the day, 100 years ago when I was single, and I would go shopping, and the person at the register, do you have any coupons, sir? And I'm like, do I look like the kind of guy who collects coupons, you know? Well, now I am the kind of guy who collects coupons.
You made me so proud.
I do. I'm using my keychain has all those little discount cards on them.
See, that's awesome.
So I don't have to dig through my wallet. You
know?
And you can get them for like CVS, Office Depot, all that stuff.
Look at you. Yeah. You're becoming an expert.
Oh, yeah. When I buy stuff for the business, you know, I use my little discount card and all that stuff.
That's smart. I'm so proud of you right now.
I know. Well, it's rubbing off, man.
It is.
Karen has always been that way, but...
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, but me, not so much. Now, I want to welcome your mother to Panama City. What's your mom's name?
Thank you. Her name is Elaine.
Elaine, welcome to Panama City. Vonda's mom. Everybody welcome Vonda's mom to Panama City. But do it on her Facebook page, not mine.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate that. She will too.
Always a pleasure to see you, and my best wishes to your family.
Thank you.
All right, remember, keep shopping smart on this camera here, and visit Vonda's page, couponqueen.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Laura Nelson from A-List Accounting to get some accounting advice for small businesses.
Okay.
What are some of the basic things we need to understand when it comes to our financials if you're a small business person like me? I'm only about 5'8". I'm a very small business person.
The basic thing is to understand your financial reports.
Okay.
So today we can talk about how to understand your balance sheet.
Balance sheet.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are all reports that can be generated by whatever software you're using.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And in my case, it would be QuickBooks.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about this balance sheet and how important is it and how often should we look at it?
The balance sheet definitely monthly, and it changes daily. So it's always giving you as of that day. It's an ongoing total, so it affects the changes that you've made that day for whenever. It's ongoing. It never stops. Versus your income statement's year to year. Okay, and basically it covers your assets, your liabilities, and then your equity.
Always want to cover my assets at any cost. So you look at this balance sheet, and it's like a two-sided thing, columns. I mean,
It usually just depends on how it's drafted up. But most of the time it just flows straight down.
Okay.
But it breaks it out between those categories. So your assets are, people like cash in the bank.
That's an asset.
Yep. If someone owes you money.
That's an asset.
Yep. Your accounts receivable. Or if you have fixed assets, and that's
Like
an asset.
plant and equipment, things like that.
That's correct. Yep. Or if you carry inventory, so it's unsold inventory.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So that's an asset as well.
That's right.
So that all counts on the positive side of the ledger, so to speak.
Correct. Okay.
Now, on
And
the other side of that, you're looking at
your
liabilities.
liabilities. So that's what you owe. So possibly what the company owes, as in short-term bills, like your light bill, your insurance, so forth. And then you have your long-term, which could be your mortgages, something that takes more than a year to pay off.
And I guess payroll too, if you have employees, or does that count as?
Your tax liability. Yep. Yep. So those are all there, but those are inside your short-term. You pay them off within the year, so that's pretty much what.
Well,
it means.
we got to run off to a break, but maybe you can explain that a little bit more on the other side of these messages. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Laura Nelson from A-List Accounting, and we're talking about your balance sheet. If you're a small business, what do I need to know about this balance sheet? I know we talked a little bit about, we have to visit that at least monthly, perhaps.
Correct.
And then we kind of have to analyze what it's telling us.
Correct. Yes.
And what are some of the things you can learn from your balance sheet?
You can learn how much assets and what you own, so which is a good thing. Assets are good. Liability, not so much, but you're going to have some. But if you look at your balance sheet and you see a lot of negatives, could be a sign that something's being posted wrong.
Okay, so it will tell us whether or not we're being accurate in our methods of
Accounting.
data entry or
Yep.
accounting or whatever, bookkeeping.
Yep.
We may have overstated an asset
Correct.
or a liability, or maybe just forgotten to do an entry.
Correct.
And that's how you kind of do that detective work,
Right.
to find that out. Now, there are some software, accounting software out there that'll do this for you with pretty much the push of a button. All you really have to do is data entry. Is that correct?
Correct. But even with the data entry, you got to make sure you put it in right. You can still mess it up.
So you got to put in. So it's always good to have an accountant on hand or somebody who knows the system well.
Correct.
To check your work.
Yeah.
And then I know in our case that you can remotely look at my balance sheets and things and tell me if I'm doing it right or wrong.
Right.
90% of the time it's wrong. but that's a good way to keep on track. Does it tell you, this balance sheet, rather than just clerical errors or bookkeeping errors, does it tell you if you're doing anything wrong with your business and how you might tweak it to be a little more efficient?
Well,
Or is there another accounting product we should be looking at?
for that's more along the lines of income statement. I mean, definitely you want to because your income statement turns into your retained earnings. Your net income does. So I mean, if you have a negative retained earnings, then that just means you haven't been making any money first, you know. But the idea is to start making money. So
yes, it is.
You know, got to work on that. And by analyzing the income statement, that's where that'll come into play.
Now, in your experience, do people make money right away in business, or does it take a while to build up your clientele? Or
it depends on your business, but yeah, sometimes it takes a while. You've got to build your brand, and so yeah.
So you always say if you make it past the first year or the first 3 years, I hear,
Correct.
is really the break-even point. If you make it through 3 years, you're going to make it.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Chances are better after 3 years.
Right.
Because most small businesses do fail within those first 3 years.
Correct.
So that's always wise. So when in doubt, call Laura Nelson at A-List Accounting, right?
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us about accounting and all those things I really should understand but don't. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Heather Noyes from Raymond James Financial, and we're going to talk about your money and what rising interest rates can do to it. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being had. Rising interest rates.
Yeah.
What does it mean to my investments?
All right. There's a lot of different effects that rising interest rates can have on your money. And we're really in anticipation of an interest rate hike. And when I say that, I'm talking about the Federal Reserve and them raising rates right now. And the rate that they set is called the Fed funds rate. And that's the money that banks can borrow from the Fed, the rate at which they can borrow from the Fed. Right now it's 0.05, so it's basically zero.
Right.
And so we're looking for a rate hike, could be as early as June, probably more likely in September. Not a huge hike, but just a little bit of a rate hike. And that's going to affect your money.
Well, why does the Fed do that? Why don't they just keep it at zero all the time? I mean, why do they tinker with that?
They actually lowered it down, and it has to do with the economic cycles that we're in to help kind of keep the economy from getting overheated or being inflationary. And then in the case that we've been in more recently, they had to bring it all the way down to zero. That would encourage individuals to borrow money from the bank, and then again, and they use that money to spend in the economy for services or goods, which again just kind of is a snowball effect to stimulate the economy.
So now we're anticipating a little bit of a hike. I guess it's just an edge up. It's not going to be anything totally dramatic, will it?
No, not at all. But you can, some initial impacts that you'll see are mortgage rates and car loans, because again, if it costs them more money to borrow money, the bank that is, and then they're going to turn around and
pass that along
to you, so you're going to pay more for your mortgages. And we've actually seen a pretty good increase here recently in real estate sales, new home sales, and some of that is some of it's attributable to the fact that people are going, wow, maybe I should go ahead and buy now, and rather than waiting till later on in the year, because I'm looking at maybe a higher mortgage rate then. So.
Yeah, and same with car loans, of course. And I guess any kind of loan, for that matter, is going to go up.
Right.
Now, conversely, wouldn't that be good for your investments, that the interest rates are up?
Yeah, from two different perspectives. Well, yes and no. The savings rate, for example, you have money in your savings account, and your money markets and your CDs are absolutely miserable right now. And so you'll get more money, you'll earn higher interest on those. Again, we don't think there's going to be a big hike, so it's not going to be a huge amount that you're going to earn, but on those short-term savings vehicles, you'll get a better rate. Now, for the stock market, it's good for the stock market. A rising interest rate environment historically has boded very well for the stock market until we get about over 5%. Over 5%, it's not as good for the market.
And what about bonds? Would that fall into that savings category?
They're what I would consider more of an investment in a longer term, not that short term savings. But interest rates, this is where you got to be very careful when you're buying bonds, because existing bonds that are out there, whenever interest rates rise, the value of that bond is going to go down. Now then,
because you're locked in at a rate at which you purchased that bond.
Exactly. And so if you wanted to sell it to someone else, let's say you bought a bond that's paying you 3%, and interest rates go up, I can go get one that's paying 3.5%. So if you wanted to sell me yours, I'm not going to buy yours that's paying 3% unless I get a discount on it, if you will.
Yeah, so you got to kind of sit tight if you've got those kind of bonds and hope things turn around.
You do, and
which
they will.
Always
well,
do.
They do, and bonds have a set maturity as well. So when they mature, you get that full face value, or what we call par value, back anyway. So you would get it back. You just got to hang on and keep collecting that interest until the maturity date.
So interest rates will edge up, and when do you think this will happen?
Probably September is what we're looking at. We originally were thinking more like June, but in the March meeting, they were kind of, things looked a little soft. We had some soft employment numbers here recently, so maybe they'll wait until September to do that.
See how things are going. Well, it's really interesting and fascinating for me because I'm the quintessential layman, and I'll just an IRA, fire and forget, and you don't really look at it. But if you do have money that needs attention, we probably need to see a financial advisor like you, right?
Absolutely.
So always go and get the advice of a professional.
Absolutely.
Heather Noyes from Raymond James Financial, thanks so much for coming on the show and getting us smart on interest rates.
Thanks, Don.
Be ready, and I'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dan Hines from Dan Hines Coaching. And what are we talking about today, Dan?
Good morning, Don. We are talking about money and happiness.
Money, and can money buy you happiness?
It can, believe it or not. Now,
or at least rent it. Can
you can rent it maybe for a little bit too, because everyone has fun on a jet ski. So
sure, yeah, exactly.
The old saying is that money can't buy you love, which is still true. But money can help buy you happiness, but it's how you use your money that's going to help in the best way possible. There's been more psychological research to find out, how can we be more happy? And it turns out that it's not, happiness doesn't happen with things. It actually happens with experiences, moments. It's it's not that you go to Disney World, it's you get to take your kids to Disney World.
Exactly.
And so there's when it comes to experiences, there are 3 areas you want to try to have in order to have a happy experience, which is pleasure, engagement, and meaning.
Okay.
So let's say you wanted to buy a new car, which is great. It's nice. It's pleasurable because it's a nice car. It's fun to drive, and you're driving, so you're doing something. You're being engaged. But is there any meaning behind it? Now, if it's your dream car, it's nice, but eventually, as a selfish reason, it starts to go away. It's like buying a new TV or something like that. Is that eventually you get used to it. But if you were to buy like a really nice car, but then you went to a children's hospital and you gave them rides, and you wanted to give them a ride in a fast car or something, that would have a lot of meaning to it.
Sure.
So that experience would be far, far better and happier than maybe just getting something for yourself.
And that's so true. So money may not directly equate to happiness, but I think also there's a lot to be said for having that peace of mind. If you're financially secure, you sleep easier.
Yes.
You're more confident in yourself.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was another psychological study by Daniel Kahneman, and he's actually a psychologist that won the Nobel Prize in economics, because he figured out, he's studied a lot about how people think about money and decisions. And he did a study where they asked over 500,000 people, 500,000 people, how much do you make and how happy are you? And they found that the more money you make, it gets happier and happier and happier. But at about $75,000 a year, it starts to curve. And you could double your income to $150,000. You could double it again to $300,000.
But you won't double your happiness.
You won't double your happiness, because when it comes to money, it buys you food, it buys you a roof, it can buy you life insurance, it can buy you retirement. And there's a lot of things money can buy. But once you get past those material things, you don't necessarily get happier and happier. Another example is that you can buy a really nice guitar, and you could rent, or you could hire the best guitar teacher in the world. But if you don't actually make music and you don't practice, then what did that money actually do for you?
It's just stuff.
Yeah, it is just stuff.
Yeah.
And so what I do with my clients is that when we start to talk about the budgeting and they're worried about not making enough money, or they're not going to be rich someday, but when it comes to retirement and being happy and all sorts of things, it doesn't take that much money. As a family, if you're making about $75,000, if that could be a goal, then you could be just about as happy as someone who's making $175,000 a year, because once you get those basics met, then that's about it.
And after that, it's just being able to do good works.
Yes.
Maybe having a few toys you can share with people.
Absolutely.
And I got to tell you, I had a motorcycle for a long time. Used to love riding that thing when I was.
It's still fun.
Because I had buddies I'd ride with.
Yes.
Then I retired from the Air Force, and I had no one to ride with.
Yes.
And then it just became a thing, sitting in a garage that I rarely rode, and it's no fun riding alone. And I wound up selling it. So I know exactly what you're saying.
So that meaning, the social aspect, when it went away, then it was just a thing that you were doing. So it goes right right along with what I'm saying. Absolutely.
And I think a lot of that depends on where you live too, because 75K in Panama City is not the same as 75K in New York City.
Yes.
Or in Davenport, Iowa, or someplace like that. I mean, there are different costs of living, so I guess that's a sliding scale there.
So yes, there is a scale there. I mean, they asked people all across America, so that just kind of
a
became
national
the
average, yeah.
But the main thing is don't think that you have to make six figures to be happy, because there are people who make 300 grand a year in Chicago and are still living paycheck to paycheck because they're spending their money the wrong way.
Well, you don't have to be a millionaire to be happy, but I'm willing to take that risk.
Yes, very good.
Dan Hines from Dan Hines Coaching, thank you again for that great advice.
Thank you, Don.
And we'll see you next time.